What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Texas Chainsaw Massacre video. It's officially been just over a week since the reveal of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game coming from Gun Interactive and Sumo Nottingham. Since then, all of us fans have been extremely intrigued and asking a lot of questions, and some of those have been answered, and that's exactly what I want to talk about in this video. The subreddit for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the game, has been really active, and there's been a lot of great questions coming in from fans, and a lot of those questions have actually been answered by members of the Gun Interactive team, like that of MASSACRE and Andy Cleaves. And I just kind of want to dive into some of those that have stood out, new things we've learned, and a little bit about maybe the timeline, what we're playing, just things to look forward to and understand a little bit more about. And I actually want to start off by addressing the whole Friday the 13th side of things, as we know how that game ultimately came to an end with the lawsuit and kind of cutting content short. But that is addressed right away from MASSACRE. And of course, there's no fixing what happened with F13, but I think the goal is to address the fact that it's not going to happen again with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We appreciate the hype. While I'm no lawyer and won't be able to get too in-depth in some of the things you mentioned, I can say that the concern expressed here is not lost on Gun. There were a lot of things that went on with our previous game that were out of our control, and a lot of lessons learned about aspects that were in our control, or more accurately, could be in our control. As for us taking our time, we already have years in this project. I know that a comment on a subreddit is not going to do the trick here, though. I look forward to the future of Gun, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the community will all build together around the game, and most of all, living up to the expectation and trust that dedicated horror fans have put in Gun. These frank and honest conversations are a huge part of the process, even at this early stage. So, while I don't have a lot more I can detail just yet, I appreciate the feedback and look forward to the days, weeks, and months ahead. Now, of course, the lawsuit side of things is tough. It was out of their control, but I like the fact that Matt directly addresses the fact that they could have done things differently that would have had a better outcome on the game, and they're addressing those. Now, what they can control is the future and what happens with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game, and they learned a lot during F13, and that's important. The fact that they addressed the fact that they learned a lot, and we fixing their mistakes come Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Moral of the story for me is that I don't think we have to worry. You know, what F13 was at its core was a beautiful horror game. Yeah, issues happen. There were a lot of bugs. There were missed opportunities. And then, of course, the lawsuit comes into play. But we know who these guys are and how big of fans they are. I'm not worried when it comes to the future of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And that's good. Now, one of the biggest pieces of feedback I've heard on the game, we got a lot of comments on it as well, even on our own breakdown and reviews of the trailer, is that it sucks that the game is not going to be coming onto previous gen consoles. You know, it's exclusive to Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, and of course PC. So, Xbox One, PS4, and Nintendo Switch are out of the question here. They're not going to happen. Now, MASSACRE also addressed this on the subreddit and, shine a light on why they made this choice. Hey gang, wanted to stop in here and discuss that a bit. Yes, this is 100% accurate. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre will not be releasing on the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, or the Nintendo Switch. The details I did want to comment further on is the timing and decision made here. While I know it doesn't soften the blow some of you will feel with the news, it's important to note that planning to design and develop a game that bridges a console generation has its own limitations. But it's also a decision made pretty early on. I think you see where I'm going with this. At the time, we made the decision to design and develop for the next generation of consoles. Supply chain issues weren't a thing. Hell, COVID wasn't yet a thing. I know that doesn't help folks now who are concerned they won't be able to get onto the next generation in time for launch, but it does shine some light on where our heads were with the decision. All that said, we do still have some time, not specifying the release window just yet, before release, and we are keeping a close eye on the status of supply of consoles. We hope and anticipate a shift here in the available supply of 9th generation consoles prior to the release of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I hope that helps understand the situation, and welcome any and all questions on the matter. So yeah, like Matt said, it doesn't necessarily make the blow any better, but knowing the fact that they were in the position where they had to make a choice, it does help at least give us some perspective on why it's coming on exclusively to next-gen platforms. Hopefully, we'll quickly see a restock on those next-gen consoles, but you know how it is. Right now, it's not looking too great. Though again, we have no idea when the game's actually coming out, so you might have plenty of time. Who knows? Now, in the same vein, I also want to discuss Unreal Engine 4 versus Unreal Engine 5 and why TCM is in fact going with Unreal Engine 4. Matt Chacha kind of explains this, as well as Ishmael, the senior producer at Gun. Given the experience with Unreal 4 and how fresh Unreal 5 was at the time, and really still is, we went with the latest version of Unreal 4. With Unreal 4, the team brings a wealth of knowledge and experience with those tools and workflows. I spoke with our senior producer, Ishmael Weissens, on the topic and wanted to include some of his comments on this area of the development of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The maturity of UE4 and the depth of knowledge about it that our development partners at Sumo Nottingham had made it an easy choice for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The latest versions of Unreal 4 jump the gap between the last generation of gaming consoles and the current ones, providing us with modern, incredible visuals while maintaining the workflows and tools our artists and engineers are familiar with. While we're excited about the possibilities for gaming that you'll find in Unreal Engine 5, we knew that we wanted to develop a solid performative game for our fans. Unreal Engine 4 enabled us to prototype rapidly, find the fun, and create a robust foundation for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. From there, we can grow the title and make sure it's something our fans can play for years. Yeah, so moral of the story, it was just the best choice they had at the time. Again, the game has been in development for several years now, and they wanted to be able to get to a point where the game was playable and they could really figure out what worked best inside of the world of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I like the fact that they have a big timeline ahead of them. They're looking at a way to make this game playable for many years to come. And obviously that's pretty important considering how short the timeline was for F13. We want to see this game have content and life for several years, and I'm glad they're addressing that very early on. They have an end game, and that's great. Another question that's come up several times is whether or not there's going to be a Savini Jason equivalent within the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Is there going to be an exclusive Leatherface that certain fans will be able to purchase? Matt Chacha, of course, addressed this as well on the subreddit. While it's still too early to talk specifics on content and items, there is no Kickstarter or other crowdfunding for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is an important distinction since the exclusivity of an item when awarded as a backer reward is something that should be upheld. That was always the stance at Gun. People who backed at that tier deserve to remain exclusive. With no crowdfunding, there is no backer-specific tier exclusivity to protect. With the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, while we have not fully ironed out content and items just yet, we do know how we want to approach content and availability to the community. And something similar to what Savini Jason was in Friday the 13th, the game will not be made exclusive or otherwise locked out from the player base. So to answer the question of whether or not there's going to be items exclusive to backers, obviously that's not going to happen as there are no backers to have. There is no crowdfunding for the game at all, so a Savini Jason equivalent is not going to be a thing. But I kind of think Matt revealed the fact that there's going to be original Leatherfaces. That's kind of how I take that. The idea that there's going to be something similar to Savini Jason. Of course, we already do know they're making original killers to add to the Slaughter family, but I'm curious, will there be new and original skins for Leatherface? We'll see where that goes once the game drops. Now, another question that's come up a lot is whether or not you'll be able to create your own custom character inside of the game, and Matt Chacha addressed this one as well. I don't want to run the risk of spoiling too much just yet, which is why I didn't immediately comment here. But let me just say the custom created characters have a personal feel to the player. That makes it difficult for them to feel like they are a part of the story in any way in a multiplayer title. In order to introduce elements of lore to our characters, we had created them once again, like we did with F13. More on the story elements and the metagames, stats, and builds later. So no, you would not be able to create your own character in the game, as Gun will be handling that side of things in order to make your characters actually feel like they belong in the world of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I personally think that this is the right choice. I mean, I couldn't imagine having some crazy, over-the-top, very modern-feeling characters inside of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The fact they control that, but probably still give us, skins and clothes that we can change just like F13. I think that is enough, enough to make us feel original in our own way while still being true to the franchise. And speaking of the franchise, let's talk about that right now. Will there be other Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies rather than just the original inside of the game? Now, this one was asked by Stragoyle Munster on the subreddit. Will other maps and sequel locations be added to the game later? Could it be possible to get Bill Moseley into the game? What about chairs made of human skeletons? And Matt Chacha responded to this as well. He said, chairs made of skeletons? Yes, it wouldn't be Chainsaw without them. As for the other questions, all in due time. While we are focusing on the first film, nothing is impossible. It is important to note our game takes place in the months leading up to the events of the original 1974 film. Yeah, so two big things in that one. First of all, there is an actual chance that we might get more content outside of just the original film. Could open the door to Chop Top. We could bring in the actual Sawyer family that we see in TCM 2. Hey, Matthew McConaughey, where you at? Can we sneak him in there? Just saying. That would be great to see. There's a lot of things you could do, like the remake as well. Would love to see the Hewitt family make it in there too. Who knows? But all for it. Hope that happens. Now, as for the timeline itself, the fact that we're going to be playing before the original events of the 1974 film, it kind of opens the door to some origin story that maybe they could establish and expand on the Slaughter family. Of course, Kim Henkel, who wrote the original film and The Next Generation, is very involved and has helped Gunn every step of the way. So that door's wide open. This game could really establish a whole new background to the Slaughter family that we haven't seen before and can expand beyond what was ever capable in the actual franchise. So I'm really excited to see where they go with that, but prequel gameplay, that's pretty exciting. And last but not least, I think this was kind of obvious, but a lot of people have been asking, so here you go. Carmine Dies posted, I asked for only one thing at launch. Dedicated servers, please. Matt Chacha responded, done. Wish all requests were that easy. So yeah, of course the game is going to launch dedicated servers. This is not an engine upgrade situation with that 13, right? We're good to go. Dedicated servers at launch across all platforms that the game will be available on, of course. So, hey, that's going to be great. I sure do miss those on F13. So, yeah, won't have issues in terms of hosts leaving. That's good to know. All right, well, that's going to wrap this video. I hope that maybe answers some of your questions, is keeping you up to date as I possibly can in this game, because I want to be kept up to date on this game, so I'll do all the annoying research for you. If you're not already a part of the subreddit, make sure you join. There's so much stuff on there, and you could join the discussion too and be directly involved and talk to Matt Chacha and Andy Cleves and anyone else that's on the subreddit and get some real answers. And of course, if you don't want to join the subreddit, I got your back, because I'll continue to make videos like this and keep you up to date every step of the way on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So if you haven't already subscribed, please do, and turn notifications on so you don't miss a video in the future. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think of all these new juicy details for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game? I'd love to hear your thoughts. But with that, as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.